Alright.
Not for me, I don't need it.
Alright, we're gonna go ahead and call this Board of Directors meeting for August 21st, 2023 to order. At this time, we have consideration of minutes. We have a motion by Mr. Young. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
I'm gonna abstain on those.
Excuse me.
I'm gonna abstain on those, I wasn't here.
Okay. Is there any comments, any questions on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. You got one abstention. Okay, report by the chairman. I don't have anything right now. General manager?
Okay, we'll go through these tonnage reports right quick, hopefully. I think we've got in there a little bit of reverse order, the monthly page. You'll look at that third sheet, I believe it is, and there it gives the 2023 numbers. You can see we got 16,665 tons in for July. Last year we were a little over 14,000, so we're up 2,630 tons from last year, the same month. Still trending on the upward side. You can see the tons per day there on the 7-day-a-week average. We're right at 540 tons per day. If you drop that back to a 5 or 6 day average, we're, 6 to 650 probably at least. I was looking this afternoon before I came over here, and we were right around 700 tons into the transfer station today, about 4 o'clock or so, I think it was. So, still getting a lot of tonnage in. The next report's that product sales summary. See the comparisons there from last year to this year. Breakdown on what went to the transfer station floor, what we got in tires, also brush and wood waste, clean wood waste. Number of loads of tires out, and loads of trash that went out, and the tonnage. The next reports are the range of customer reports, breakdowns on the bigger haulers, comparing this year to last. Some of them are up. See, Alton's up quite a bit, a couple hundred tons, a little less than 200 tons.
Miscellaneous still keeps.
Yeah, that's all the private haulers that are coming in. Again, we're getting a lot of roofing material. There's a lot of roofing going on in the area. Private haulers, roofers, dump trailers that have, they might have a smaller dump trailer, but they got quite a bit of weight on them. So that's.
Larry, has it ever been that high for miscellaneous?
No, probably not. No.
Who are the biggest ones in that?
We got a company that picks up in the rural parts of the county, clean away disposal, some of those, Gordy's trash disposal. But where a lot of that tonnage comes from is the roofing loads.
Are some folks getting squeezed out of other areas and ending up coming to us?
They could possibly be. There's a lot of, moving and shaking, I guess, for lack of a better term, in the whole region right now on solid waste. People looking for places to dump, for various reasons. price or otherwise, convenience, all those sorts of things play into it. Even the bigger haulers do the same thing sometimes. They'll be bringing something for a long time and then all of a sudden it'll go away. They're constantly shifting and moving trucks and routes around different places. The next report there is the breakdown on the county tonnages. We're still getting loads, some loads in from out of county. You can see there, the biggest one being from Davidson County. And probably the biggest part of that tonnage that shows up there is the roofing material. And it adds up, you know, pretty fast when you get loads of shingles and that sort of thing.
So can I ask you a question? By county, when you say that sometimes it's price that drives you to us, with these other counties, do you know what their prices are, their tipping prices?
I know Robertson County's close to the same price we are, but a lot of it's driven by private companies like Waste Management, Republic, that have the transfer stations and other sites. And you don't ever get a lot of those companies, they charge what they call a gate rate, but they have other charges, fees on top of that add to that. You don't ever get a good answer when you talk to them about what they charge. And, you know, when you add all that up, it's probably more than we charge, but, and that's one reason why these people start looking around. I know at the C&D site that Waste Management runs, Southern Services site down off Riley Parkway, they never have had a scale down there. They always charge by the yard, measure the trailer or box, charged by the yard. But they're, you know, as I think I've shared in here in the last several months, they're in the process of putting C&D kind of a processing facility on that site where they can process C&D and do some other things with it. And they're putting in a scale. As a matter of fact, I talked to the Fairbanks guy that does our scale work last week. We were looking at that 50-foot scale that we're in the process of replacing. And he was telling me that they had just put a scale in there, so they're going to start weighing loads in.
That'd be good for them.
Now, so, but I never have understood why they never have done that to start with. It's kind of aggravating trying to, I guess you got a guesstimate on a box size or a trailer size. They've done it enough where they probably can tell by looking at one what the cubic yards is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next report is the recycling report. We got the sheets in there through the end of last fiscal year and also the start of this fiscal year. Recycling markets continue to fluctuate. The cardboard had gone up for a bit. Now it's kind of back down. I think we were getting something like $10 to $25 a ton loose for the last few loads we sent to a processing facility down in Nashville. They charge us $10 a ton, I think, to process the plastic that we take down there. And if we've got any glass loads, they're at $40 a ton, plus the environmental fee and fuel surcharge that they charge for the loads that come into those places. The next sheet is the miscellaneous recycling report. Got the one through the end of June. Biggest thing in that report that helps us out is on scrap metal sales. You can see the revenue that's generated from scrap metal sales, and also the aluminum cans. And then first month there for this fiscal year's in that second report.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Lately, in conversation with, other people about solid waste, I was unaware of commodity markets. And so that's come up in conversation I've had with people lately. Can you explain to me how that works with us?
That's what I was talking about, the recycling markets,
Right.
commodities markets.
So, does it come, do you get like, is it like day trading, like different prices per day, by month, by the month, and how does that?
No, on cardboard, for example, they use what they call the yellow sheets. Back when we were running the recycling facility, baling, cardboard, newspaper, I used to subscribe to the yellow sheet, get it every month, and that way you can tell what the price per ton for baled cardboard was.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you'd call brokers to try to set up pickups on loads, we dealt with 2 or 3 brokers at a time, and whoever gave us the best price was who we could get to pick our loads up.
So that was like a monthly?
It's a monthly thing, especially on cardboard, and it's still that way. I don't subscribe to it anymore because we do loose cardboard, so it doesn't matter as much. If we were doing a whole lot more, it might be a different story where you could, but still, you only got a few places if you're taking, in this area, to take the loose cardboard. We've got 2 people that we deal with, Waste Management River Hills, that's got the, recycling plant down there for, recyclables. It's a co-mingle recycling processing facility. And on cardboard, we also go to Pratt, recycling, down in Nashville as well. They deal strictly in just paper, like the mixed paper and cardboard as well.
So we don't really like, I guess, shop the commodities market, we just have.
I kind of look, see what they're paying, those 2 people,
and
and then I kind of,
It looks good.
Yeah.
So, it was new to me, we had never discussed. like,
yeah,
how that helps the numbers
that's
come
what
in.
that's what it's talking about, commodities prices. It's all those prices like tin, aluminum, steel, cardboard, all those things, they go up and down all the
But
time.
we just have, people that we sell it to, we don't.
Yeah, there's only, the way we're currently collecting it, of course, we're not doing any processing or taking any, curbside pickup or anything like that on recyclables, so, there's only a couple, 3 places maybe that's close, where we can haul it down there.
Yeah, I can understand that.
That's the thing. When we were baling it, we baled it, stored the bales till we got enough to make a load. We knew about how much a load of cardboard was, and then we'd call a broker and line up a pickup on the load.
Is that the same thing the city of Gallatin does? They have that convenience center out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very busy.
Yeah, they get a lot of traffic over there.
Yeah, do they get more than you? Because there's people in and out there all the time.
Probably not. They're dealing with the same places we are,
Yeah, okay.
so it's probably about the same price.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next sheet, there's the alternative energy, or shows the brush grinding, transfer station site. Also the city of Gallatin site off Steam Plant Road, and also Hendersonville brush site. Now the breakdown on the year through the end of last fiscal year. Finished in the plus side. That's a pretty good number on the brush grinding. You see the first month there for this fiscal year, how we started off. We're still continuing to get quite a bit of brush in, actually.
Still lost.
Motion from us.
And I know we're keeping that contractor busy going between our 3 sites. And also, I think he grinds down at either Brentwood or the city of Franklin or somewhere down there. Maybe Brentwood, I think, so. That's all I've got on tonnage reports. The next thing in there is the breakdown on the financial statement for the first month of the fiscal year. finished July, pretty good, it looks like, so. We sent those out ahead of time. If anybody's got any questions about anything on here? See hit fee revenue started off with a pretty high number, but also if you look down at the waste disposal number, that had to be a big number as well, or a bigger number.
With the waste disposal number, is there a way to break that out between transportation and tipping fees at the landfill?
We could, I guess, yeah.
I was just wondering how much we spend in transport, how much is landfill? I was just wondering.
Of course, the landfill's the biggest portion of it, obviously, but I could break that out, yeah. I mean, we get a report from Smith County with the, invoice for the month. Then I get one from MBI on the transportation, or the loading and transportation. So what I do is figure that with the fuel factor in there. You just add those two numbers together, is how I come to it, but yeah, we can do that. I could report that as something different every month instead of breaking it out on here, if that's okay.
Everyone, I was just curious if, if landfill,
That's not hard to do.
if landfill, if the capacity fills up, that number's gonna keep going up. And I was just wondering, with transportation, I was just curious.
Yeah.
So is the $5,000 in fuel essentially a part of that waste and transportation? Is that
That's fuel for our equipment there on the site.
on site?
Yes, ma'am. For our loaders and also our roll-off truck that we haul recyclables with.
Okay.
Is that it, Larry?
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else for Larry?
I have a question. Did you get a new employee?
Did.
Excellent.
So we'll see how it works out.
All right, before we go to legal report, if nobody has any objection, I think we've got a citizen that wants to, have a couple of comments. Does anybody have any objection to that? All right. If you want to come up, give your name, address for the record, please. It doesn't matter.
Good evening, my name is Kay Brooks. I live at 123 Trousdale Drive in Hendersonville, the exceptional city of Hendersonville. Since the agenda for this meeting wasn't posted online, and I just got a copy 10 minutes ago from the director, it's impossible to be prepared to speak on agenda items. This is a disservice to citizens and has to change. We need to post those agenda items well in advance. Regardless, I'll speak on two items. One, do not move this meeting to a different location. This location is most convenient for commissioners and for citizens who will attend the meeting shortly after this. It makes no sense to move it. Two, I don't see, and I haven't heard the process for hiring a new director that will include citizen comments. If rural control is accurate, I vehemently oppose Scott Foster's application.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with this governing body. My name is Donna Bishovo, and I live at 101 Chambers Court, also in the great city of Hendersonville. I'm going to echo sentiments of previous speaker, Kay. I also want to speak with regard to the hiring of the general manager. Of course, everything that we do here is funded by not government, but by the people. And we, the people, should have the opportunity to speak on some matters that impact our taxation because it's coming from our wallet. I'm going to speak about the general manager position. I'm also here to echo the sentiments to vehemently oppose Scott Foster as a candidate, even advocate. I do have in my possession ethics complaint. I was one of the citizens who actually pulled public records, who was able to identify questionable activity with the mayor, the usurpation of the board. We are also a board. You will find that that is a big unilateral pattern, unilaterally trying to change FOIA to keep the citizens from getting an opportunity of freedom of information and increasing fees exorbitantly so citizens could not. Also usurpation of the board, the travel policy, multiple ethics complaints. I also have in my hands information with regard to that. I'm more than happy to do so. I was also part of the stoppage of changing FOIA, and we won in conjunction with working with the attorney Kirk Clements. So I just wanted to echo those sentiments and thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me be here. My name is Chris Colby. I'm at 155 Headlawn Drive in Hendersonville. I spoke with Mary Nunn. I had applied for the position of general manager, and she said it'd be a good idea to come in and just present myself and get to see the board and let them see me. My background is with Bridgestone Tire Operations in Nashville for 14 years. I was the DOT compliance manager for that entire time. I also did other projects and assignments. Part of what I did was handle scrap tires permitting across the country, as well as hazardous materials. So, like I said, DOT compliance. So everything that was part of that role, I feel qualifies me for that same position. But I did have another position as director of operations until recently, all in the logistics industry. So trucking, logistics, and all of that freight movement, I'm accustomed to. So just wanted to take an opportunity and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Laura Baker, 424 A.B. Wade Road in Portland. I there's lots of things I could comment on, but the one about the changing the location of the meeting. I've been to the Resource Authority, seen the room. If there's not a different room that we can meet in over there, if you can't have this kind of attendance, you cannot have an open meeting. There's no way it can be transparent because we can't all fit in the room. And there's no accommodations with monitors or anything else for us to see. You should be a part of the governing body of the Resource Authority. Also, I put in an open records request for the recording from the last meeting on July 24th, and I received no response to that request.
That's because you didn't fill out the paperwork correctly.
Well, I could have received an answer back.
Well, you did receive an answer back, and I told you when you filled out the paperwork correctly, then we would.
Sir, I got no response.
Well,
my name is Laura Baker. You did not respond to me.
I never saw, I saw one request that came through, the law director's office responded. It wasn't filled out correctly. As soon as it's filled out correctly, we'd be happy to provide you with that.
Well, this is the first response I got.
Well, then you need to respond. Who did you send it to?
You.
Well, you're incorrect, and I've got the records to show it. Thank you.
And we pay your salary, right?
No, you don't.
Sorry, but you don't. Okay, does anybody else want to speak? Anybody else want to speak? If not, we're going to move on to the legal report. Mr. Moore.
The city of Gallatin, I'm not stealing Ryan's thunder, but they've approved the site plan. I've checked with the city once that approval in regards to the trading off of the roads, the quitclaim deeds, and the easements. And so that should be coming very shortly.
Any hiccups?
No. The engineering was waiting for the site plan approval before they moved to the actual rerouting of the roads and the documents that have to go with that. The other thing is the personnel policy is in dire need of restructure. It was put in place in 1998. Things were a lot different then, and so next meeting I'll have a proposed new personnel policy for the board to consider.
Can we get a copy of the?
Sure.
Of this one? Can you email that to me?
Yes. And that's all I have.
Anything else? Good?
No further.
Right. Old business, update and discuss the progress of the final design and permitting for the new transfer stations.
As Butch mentioned, we got the site plan for the city of Gallatin, one of the final hurdles. All the permits that we need are in place. We've got a construction general permit, we've got a transfer station permit for the modification. And we are in the final discussions with Gallatin Electric just about bringing their primary service back to the transfer station. So we're really close to bidding. I'd say before the next meeting, this will be out to bid. And beyond that, I might recommend, since the bids will probably come in after the time of the next meeting date, maybe a special call meeting where we can look to award the bid to the lowest successful or lowest bidder that's qualified. Do we have to go those ways? You do. So you don't manage the office, right? Well, it's the lowest qualified bidder, so there's certain things that also qualify that bid.
Lowest and best.
Okay.
Where do you advertise for the bid? I mean, that's,
So the advertising will be public. It'll be in either a locally published paper.
so it goes in the Gallatin paper and the Hendersonville paper?
Yeah, Larry's that typically.
Do we go for a bigger publication? Or?
You can go for a larger publication like the Tennessean, which
So I'm
is
just
the
asking,
parent.
where are we going?
Well, what we'll also do, where you really get your bidders from is the plan rooms like Construct Connect, Dodge Room, DXGN. We advertise them on our website. We reach out to qualified contractors that we're aware of that have either performed successfully for the Resource Authority or on our projects in the past. And so once it's out to bid, we'll invite folks with that advertisement as well.
So when it gets time to do that and put out the bid, can you let the board members know where we're advertising or who we're
Of course.
handing it out? That would be helpful.
Thank you.
Brian, with these ever-increasing capacities that Larry's dealing with now, and with this potential redesign and monies that's going to be put into a new transfer station, is there a way that, because I know there's 2 new board members here, is there a way that we could, and I'd be willing to work with you to put together kind of a synopsis of what this thing looks like, where we can try to get this out into the community where they can understand? I mean, I think everybody, the folks that are behind us, they understand the challenges that Larry is dealing with every day now. But if we could kind of show them, this is what is going to, this is where the direction we're moving to, and what we're trying to do, I think that would answer a lot of questions within the community and just show people that we're trying to make this progress.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I mean, what we're effectively doing is more than doubling the Resource Authority's capacity with a new transfer station, separating residential and commercial users. It's going to be very impactful. Now, we're still at the end of a Rappahannock Wire Drive, which is in itself always going to be a challenge from a traffic standpoint. And there's other users that are there now and other users that could be there tomorrow. So those are things that are beyond our control.
Right, sure. But I'd be willing to work with you on that, to make that, whatever I put together, to share that with the board, with their input or discussion or whatever, if that's okay.
So are you thinking, Rick, about like an open meeting for citizens to ask questions and you present? I'm just.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for just maybe for Missy and I, just to kind of get our arms around what it's going to look like, and for the board to have a better understanding of that. Because I don't know how far down the road they are with what they put together now.
Well, we're down the road, I mean,
Well, I know that
we're
you are.
going to bid.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a done deal now.
And it needs to be, we're probably a year to 2 years behind, just from the standpoint of how much volume pushes through the existing station. And these facilities typically have something around a 20-year life. Larry's done a great job pushing the waste out of it that he's got flowing through it now. I mean, really amazing considering he's some days still going the capacity of what should be going through that station.
So I think Terry just kind of put together something just to show the people this is the direction we're going.
And I think I'm reading their minds. They're asking, I can hear them say, well, where will we see it at?
Yeah,
That's the thing. Well,
I agree. Yeah, I don't know. That's something I think we need to try to work on. And I'm
what
happy.
is the current capacity of an existing plant, and what will be our design capacity of our new plant?
So the existing transfer facility is not, it was developed under a different purpose, and it was retrofitted to be a transfer station, right? We estimate 350 to 400 tons per day is
That's what I was thinking of.
what you would give it a design rating for. Now, it's pushing out 600, 700 tons per day, so physically,
It can do
it
it.
can do more, right? And the new station's gonna be the same, in that capacity, but, the new station's rated in a little bit of, in a 650 ton per day capacity. But it will probably push out close to 1,000 tons per day by the time it's said and done.
Any more questions, Ryan?
I got one more thing on the transfer station, if I may. Spoke about Gallatin Electric coordination. The process there is our contractor will install the conduit, will install the transformer panel. We'll put the things in the ground that Gallatin Electric needs to pull the wire and set the transformer. Transformers right now have somewhere around a 52-week lead time, so we're talking about close to a year we get a transformer. As Gallatin provides us with their design to provide primary power to the facility, they're going to give us a cost to go ahead and, order the transformer, and I think they look for 75% of the transformer dollars up front. I would ask the board, because we have such a long lead time, once we have our final numbers from Gallatin Electric, to go ahead and make that order with them for the transformer and bring power to the facility. It'll help speed up the construction process.
So that brings up another thing, well, I'll wait, because that's on me.
Update on the floor repair project.
Sounds like two, actually. Sounds like two motions, one for a special meeting and the other one for...
Okay, we're gonna do a special meeting. Do we think we need to?
I don't think we know when.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I think we'll have to wait till we have bids in hand and we have, at least a chance to be able to award a bid to a contractor.
How long is the bid period?
2 weeks is state minimum. I recommend 4 weeks for project this size.
So what are we going for? Should we vote on what our bid period is?
You can, if you like. I would recommend 4 weeks, and that's what I have in the contract.
That's in the contract.
That's from the point of advertisement to the time we receive bids. If that's suitable.
I make a motion that we do that 4 weeks.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed, motion carries.
And what was the other item?
Probably the most pressing one, I don't have a number here tonight. It's probably coming this week, today or tomorrow or Wednesday. Gallatin Electric is working towards having us a number to make an order on the transformer, essentially.
Yeah.
So we get that lead time started. And that number is going to be what Gallatin Electric tells us it is, really not negotiation.
Not negotiable.
Do we have a separate set of accounting for the capital project, for the new project? Because I've been looking at the engineering costs coming in, now we have the transformer. I'm just wondering, are we gonna run a separate, or does that run over with the bond, with the bond being on the county side? Is the capital project, all those are gonna be over there?
No. Anything associated with the new transfer station will be over there.
Over there. So the transfer, we'll approve the transformer cost, but it'll be on the books over there.
When we submit the bill for it, yes.
That's what I thought I was doing.
What we've been doing, up to now is paying those bills and then submitting them to David, and then they reimburse us.
So,
Out of the bond.
I don't know if the other board members are looking at the engineering fees. I am. I don't know if y'all are keeping track, and I don't know if we should have it here keeping track, if we're expecting someone at the county to be watching the capital projects and making sure we're in budget and stuff. So what do y'all anticipate that to look like? I mean, it's a $13 million project. We need to either have a responsibility here or somebody there. I'm just asking.
So would the finance director for the county be able to consider, is the bond go with the new, is going for the new transformer station? I need you to explain it to me.
So the transformer is the electrical feed that's gonna.
No, I mean the big project, sorry.
The
The building of the big project.
yes, the bond funds the large project.
So what she's saying, the capital expenses, would the finance director of the county be most appropriate to track that through the holding the bond? Or I'm just asking.
He will pay it, but it either needs to go to a committee with the commissioners, like general ops, or it needs to come back to this board, and this is probably where it needs to be. And that's what I'm asking. David's doing the accounting, but is anyone providing oversight? And I'm asking, is this board going to provide oversight for capital projects, even though the county is facilitating the paying of the bill?
Which I assume the county can do that if they want, but
Yes.
we're responsible for that.
Right. And I think it belongs here. I'm just bringing it up.
Yeah.
That,
Okay.
and we already have incurred, we're getting close to 400,000 in engineering expense. And I've been asking, nobody's providing oversight. And that's why I was just bringing it up.
Well, it's professional fees, for one thing.
We
Which
still
is,
need to
well,
provide
I
oversight.
understand that, but in the private act, the board has the authority to hire and pay their professionals, including engineers, attorneys, and whatever professional services they need. And the county does not provide oversight for that. The county, this entity, well, let me finish. Let me finish. This entity is no more it's a subdivision of the county, but it is also a subdivision of the city of Gallatin and the city of Hendersonville. So everybody, that's how it was created. And so the notion that the county commission provides oversight because they issued the bonds, but we're responsible for the debt service. That's what those millions of dollars are for. It is the board's, the input that the municipalities have on the decisions and the operation of this board is by appointing its members.
I think
Period.
we're in agreement.
Okay.
I'm just saying that we need to be looking at the capital expenditures, and we don't see them because they're paid here, and we don't get them on our financials. I'm just saying.
The engineering fees are in your budget.
It shows up on this,
Okay,
on the balance sheet.
that was what I was asking.
Yeah, it shows up somewhere. So we do, that's the account that we run it through when we send the bills to
To
David.
David.
Yes, ma'am. So it does show up on there, and
Are we
that's a
gonna
little over
keep those separate as we go?
$390,000.
Are we gonna, I was just asking if we're gonna have a separate for capital expenditures. And.
Pertaining to that, yeah, we will,
Okay,
yeah.
that was all.
We're already doing that, and that's the reason it shows up on,
Can we, okay, so it'll split out, we'll see capital
Yeah, it
expenditures
doesn't-
separate
it
from
doesn't-
operational.
it doesn't show up here, but it'll show up here.
Okay, I'll look for it.
Okay. All right, any more questions? Any other motions?
Do we need a motion for the Gallatin the transformer?
I think if you like later to be able to order it, yes.
Yeah, probably do.
I make a motion that we appropriate to Galvin whatever they need to get the transformer started.
Second.
You have an estimate of what that's looking like?
Whatever it is, it is.
I don't have an estimate this time, but I can email the board and lay what that looks like. I'll do that in the next day or two.
Are we talking $100,000? We talking 10? I don't like making motions to spend money with a blank check.
You gotta have transport.
I get that, but if they come back and say it's $500,000, should we have a meeting and discuss it instead?
We'll pay it.
That's the only way you'll get it.
Galveston Electric is going to charge us for the transformer, and they're going to charge you a per foot fee to run power back to the facility. And we're back behind our facility, so it's going to be a decently long run of primary power. But that's,
The cost is the cost.
it's really not much. Jamie, I can get you an estimate, but it'll be tomorrow or the next day before it's here.
So, are we talking 10,000 or are we talking 500,000?
I don't have a number.
So we could be spending $500,000 on this without a vote specific from this board.
Realistically, it's probably not gonna be $500,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping too.
Yeah, I don't expect it to be that price point, but I don't have a number.
Appreciate it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item, full repair project. Anybody take on that?
We're, in the process of, making that happen in the week, next week, over the Labor Day weekend. We've got the contractor lined up. We've been notifying people on our website and also handing out flyers, to everybody that comes in. They're going to be down that Friday, Saturday. Of course, we will be, closed Sunday and Monday as well. Sunday, we're not open, and Monday's the holiday, so, everything is looking okay at this point to make that happen next weekend. Not this coming weekend, but next weekend, yeah.
How might the weather impact that, Larry?
It won't.
Because it's under construction.
Okay.
So you should, with everything starts on schedule, should be ready to open for business on Tuesday morning. So really, we're only gonna be down 2 days, Friday and Saturday.
Technically, 2 work days, yes, sir.
Thanks, Larry. Update on any landfill projects?
We're current with all our water testing, and
Man, that's good, that's good. Good news there. Update discussing progress on replacement for retiring general manager.
This is from our HR person. Do you want to hear from our administrative services director?
If you want to talk to us about it, yeah, it would be good. Probably let us know what's going on.
Okay, so this is Jason Gallo. He's the Director of Administrative Services for the City of Hendersonville. He's our top HR person. A couple months ago, this board voted to have him put together the advertisement and the information that would go out about this position. We have it. The only way we've narrowed down the applicants so far is a qualified and unqualified. It's up to us if we want to stick with that grouping or change that grouping or do however many piles you want to put in there, just like it's up to us on who we decide to hire at the end of the day. But Jason can tell you sort of how we went about that. He's got some information to share with you.
Sure. Sorry, I'm going to stand just so everyone can see me. So we, at this point, we've gotten 33 applications. Out of that, there's about 17 who meet the minimum qualifications. The buckets that I put them in just matched what the job description was, which was a bachelor's degree or experience in lieu and 2 years of management of solid waste. Those are the requirements. They're pretty broad, and that's okay. They give you a lot of flexibility with it. The unqualified is really for you all to go through if you feel like, you know, I gauged it wrong, I'm not offended by that, I'm really just here to help. And so when you look at those, you'll also see people who have been in food service and just are throwing their hat in the ring because that's what candidates do. And so just understand that as you're going through that, I didn't intentionally weed anybody out. You know, I'm looking for specific keywords within a resume or a cover letter, so I didn't see that. I also admit I'm human, and so sometimes I overlook that. So if you do see them, all I recommend recommend is that you just put a note there of why you move them from one pool to the next. Qualified to unqualified or unqualified to qualified, right? Just by the flip. Beyond that, it's really how the board wants to approach it. If you want to do a smaller committee to funnel that down, 15 people, 17 people to interview is a lot. And so I don't know if that's the best use of time for everybody. You might have a smaller subcommittee who filters that down and does an initial phone screen to gauge candidates and their interest. But people were from really all over the U.S., so you'll see people local as well as East Coast. So it really is up to you on how you want to begin to narrow that pool down, and then what you expect of your team. Are you willing to offer over the phone, or you want them here for an on-site interview, those kind of things. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm really just here to be a resource for you all, so if you need help developing questions, you need help guiding through that process, I'm here to answer any of those questions. I spent a lot of my career in HR and doing recruiting, so I was really happy with the turnout that we got on this based on the fact that where we and on Indeed. It had high hopes and it yielded better than I expected, so it was good.
I have a question.
Sure.
We got the bucket of resumes from everybody.
Yeah.
And we went through and looked at all of them, qualified and unqualified.
Great.
And then looked at key elements and then actually called someone.
Okay.
Because I wasn't aware of it. I did my homework early. So some of the things that I found were that, like, certifications, some people had certifications but didn't realize they needed to put on there because it was, some of them were very, very good. And, those are the kind of things. And then some people didn't maybe have 2 years of solid waste, but they had all these other industrial waste programs that they did, and they had a lot of management. So I was trying to figure out, my question was, because I haven't seen job descriptions that this job has. I just saw what you posted, and I didn't know what Larry's, I hadn't seen Larry's, and I hadn't seen the updated one. So I had some questions.
I hope you saw those. They were in the folder, and they were also linked on the job postings.
Okay, yeah, I did. I saw that.
Okay.
But I had some questions about the position itself, because I felt like we were like squeezing into a little box. And so thinking analytically about it, well, what is the position? What's the scope of the job? So I know what Larry has told us he does. I know what he does out there. He does a phenomenal job. But my question was planning, processing, things like that. To me, that's extremely important for the flow of what they do out there. They've got a project coming up. There's a lot of things that are going on. There's so many moving parts out there. And my question was, why waste management only in lieu of, or 2 years, What about logistical work, management work, those kind of things? So I was trying to get an idea of why it was narrowed. And then their knowledge base. Was it more process, logistics, or industrial, institutional resources? Kind of finding out where their knowledge bases were and trying to put that into. I read a lot of resumes, and some of them were quite fun reading. But the other thing I had was, the question I had is, in your opinion, because you do HR, would it be best to just pull out the 5 top candidates and narrow it from there? I'm trying to figure out how we're going to do this with all of us agreeing on everything, because some people have one idea and you have another idea, etc. And then talking with some of the things about grant management. Do some of these candidates have experience in grant management? So there's a lot of moving parts, and but I did call several of them.
Wait, can I step in real quick? These really aren't questions for Jason. Jason's done what we got him to do. They're questions for us. His work is really done.
When it goes to the qualifications, that's really for the board to decide.
I got you.
As far as your question about what are considered best practices, like how do you narrow down that funnel? Honestly, that's where a subcommittee making phone calls and having conversations with folks over the phone might be a good idea.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're picking, let's say 17 names on a dartboard and seeing which one sticks. Just like you mentioned, there's things that people leave off of resumes.
Sure.
And sometimes a phone call will answer those.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, a phone call will answer the other side of it, which is maybe that's not what you want. You know, Larry's shoes are big shoes to fill from what I understand.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
But I think all those are good questions, it's just that really Jason has done what we've asked him to do, and really for us.
But I do think they're good questions. Can we address those? I mean, I understand that they're not for Jason, so do we address those questions?
Well, I read the bylaws, and the bylaw says that we are supposed to have a committee for financial and personnel. There's supposed to be two committees, and according to the bylaws, and we brought that up before, but it didn't go anywhere. So I didn't know, are we planning on, like she said, you know, we need to address this because this is a big deal, or are we going to have these committees put together? So I got, you know, there's a couple of things I need to. That's not really your deal.
There's a good question about that. What about those committees that we used to have, right?
Yeah, I know in times past, you know, we usually elect officers in September meeting. And, a lot of times whenever those officers are elected, whoever the chairman was would appoint the committees at that time.
We skipped the last September election.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We skipped last September's election.
Yeah, we didn't even meet in September. I think that was one of the
We
meetings.
couldn't do it. He advised us not to.
Yeah.
Well, that was during the time of the situation with Gallatin. That wasn't in
Craig was
September.
gone from October to June.
I know
and we
there
couldn't
was
have
one
elections.
meeting, we didn't have a quorum. I couldn't remember whether that was it or not.
Well, September.
Anyway,
So this, but
But do we not still have the committees from last time? I mean,
I
that's,
don't know that they were appointed, actually.
And part of the I mean, I don't know for sure, but part of the reason is when these bylaws were enacted, we were wasting energy. Because I've been recommending for years, a situation where first of all, this solid waste disposal commission be the resource authority, but there's a solid waste disposal commission because we're a different type of entity now than we were when the Private Act, and the amendment to the Private Act and the bylaws were created because it wastes energy. That's why I was talking about the personnel policy. We haven't had to hire a general manager since 2002. Is that right, Mr. Young?
I think that's right.
When you became general manager was 2002.
20 years ago.
Yes. So, and the rest of the personnel was Larry's. He hired him, fired if necessary. I don't think he ever had to fire too many people. That's another need that a lot of paperwork or reorganization needs to take place with not only our personnel policy but our bylaws and potentially a private act, because we do not operate a waste energy plant anymore. And so, yes, now it probably would be a good idea to have a personnel committee instead of having them then report to the board as a whole. And the finance committee was basically the secretary treasurer, because again, back in 1998, when a lot of this stuff was occurring and we were wasting energy, we were bleeding money on an annual basis. Now that's not the case. So, because we're not doing waste energy. So for those who weren't here, we were going to have to retrofit the waste to energy portion of the plant, which also involved more personnel, and the bond issue for that was going to be in, what was it? $16 million. So we opted to shut down the waste-to-energy plant, which is probably a good thing. Because also this happened during that period of time was that Donnelly closed, which was our principal customer for steam. So there was no place to take the energy to have to resell it in that market. Bottom line, a lot of stuff needs to be reorganized. Personnel committee is still on the books, and that can act, as far as hiring of a general manager. But we hadn't had to do that for 20 years.
I'd like to make a motion.
So do you think what I'm saying is, I guess that we should go ahead and set up a personnel committee to,
I have a motion, I have an idea, a motion. There's 7 of us. What if we just go away and we pick our top 5 or 6 candidates and we see how many we come up with is the same? There's only 7 of us. Surely we all have time to read these. Mary says she's already read them all.
Well, we have a personnel committee, whatever y'all want to do, that's fine.
Well,
I have time to read them.
I think he's right. He's right, though. We do need a personnel committee, because you need to have a consolidated format on, what you're looking for. And that's why I asked those questions, because we're kind of we're all over the place here. And so I think he's right, do we have a personnel committee? I think that's absolutely, if you're gonna pick a general manager for Larry's position, you should have 3 people or 4 people or 5 people, whatever. But to sit down, look through the stuff, go through the resumes, and ask the questions, what are you looking for? And so there are a lot of variables in that question. So that's just my feelings about it.
how do we go about picking a personnel committee? Who does that?
There shall be 2 standing committees of the authority known as the Finance and Personnel Policy. Such standing committees shall be appointed at the annual meeting by the chairman, subject to the approval by the board. Such other committees may be appointed by the chairman of the authority from time to time as may be necessary. The membership of standing and ad hoc committees shall be appointed by the chairman of the authority. No member shall chair more than 1 standing committee. The secretary-treasurer shall be a member of the finance committee. At each time, each committee shall select its own officers.
And there's this, does it say how many should be on each?
No, it does not.
So chairman being myself, right?
Yes, with approval by the majority of the board.
Okay. So do we need to appoint a personnel committee?
I'm certainly willing to serve on the personnel committee. If anybody else is interested in doing it.
I'll be glad to.
I've got plenty of time. I'll be fine.
Y'all mean to do 4 or 3? 4, how about it? Rick, Terry, Mary, and Jamie?
I think each one of the entities need to be represented.
Okay.
I was gonna say Jim.
Well, I said you.
I know, I want to say Jim.
All right, well, Jim, Rick, Terry, and Mary. How about that? That good?
Needs approval.
All right,
Needs
that's
approval.
right. So do I hear a motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion for those 4, second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. And I'm assuming that you 4 are gonna look at those resumes, right? Come up with, say 5 or how many ever y'all want to? And bring them
Well,
back
we
to
need to
us.
talk about that, I guess. I mean, we want to present.
Yeah.
The more you present,
Yeah.
the bigger problem you're gonna
It gets harder.
We can bring it to 3, I think.
Yeah.
That's one man's opinion.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I've got a vested interest in it. What kind of time frame are we talking about?
Quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Quick.
be free Wednesday morning.
This one,
Yes.
I'm free in the morning.
I'm free in the morning, yeah.
Well, I think we do need to give some notice,
And then, is that a public meeting? Because it's a work meeting, I think it is.
Yeah, but it's personnel, so, let me check that, because that's a gray area.
There was one of the candidates said that they were kind of wanting to keep it quiet because they have a very big job.
I was just at drug accounting class, and they said nothing's off the book, except lawyer-client privilege. They said, even in the drug accounting, it's open record.
Well, again, you and I may, disagree on the legal ramifications about Open Meetings Act. And we've expressed that, okay? And so, but I'm unsure about this, so I don't give an opinion unless I'm reasonably certain. And I'll be happy to do that.
So I would like to give a little direction. Jim said 3. At most, it needs to be 4. That's what I'm asking the committee to do.
Yeah.
If it's more than that, it becomes cumbersome for us to have a debate about that.
Right. Yeah, 3 or 4 is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, no more than that. I don't think that.
What time frame though? So we're gonna meet like Wednesday and then go over.
But that doesn't give me time to,
Yeah.
I wanna make sure that we're good.
How much time? Cause honestly, I'm gonna be out of town next week, but I can be by phone or.
Well, I mean, I will try to get to it and have an answer for that by no later than tomorrow afternoon.
All right, that sounds good.
Because there may not be deliberation in that. There's not.
Yeah, right.
All we're doing is just selecting. We're not voting on
it.
You're not selecting we're just saying, in our meeting, we picked these 4 people. Or
to bring back to the group,
right. And we're gonna turn that back into the board, and the board in turn would be the ones that voted.
And hopefully we'll get consensus within the 4 of us in terms of our top 3 or 4, whatever it is.
Okay.
So while that committee's doing that, I'm not gonna talk to any of these folks. I'm not gonna communicate with any of the applicants. Because likely, they're gonna know that we're going through this process. And I think only people to communicate with those, and we probably can't pass a motion, this is a First Amendment issue, but I think the only people to communicate with those folks need to be the people on the Personnel Committee.
You're on the command. All right, is that it then on that? Butch, gonna let us know?
Yes.
Okay, all right. That'll work. All right, next thing, update on the investing of current surplus funds in our cash flow account. What's status on that?
Well, we talked about that last week, and there was, I think, there was 1 abstention and 1, that voted no to, look at the Pinnacle Insured Cash Sweep account. And there was a comment that was made that the safety of these dollars are paramount. And I think by going with this Insured Cash Sweep account, they split that out, and it's all FDIC insured up to $5 million. And as it exists right now, the account that has almost $8 million is only FDIC insured up to $250,000.
It's collateralized, I think. They got collateral. That's the reason you don't earn much on it. It's a special deal. Used to you had to move them around, but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Butch, but I believe it's got collateral that's backing that state. I can only be 100%.
But either way, the $5 million you're talking about is insured.
It's insured through FDIC, where they split that out, banks across the country, they're all FDIC insured.
So, and just to throw another, and I'm sorry, I was just rereading the Private Act, and Section 10 in there says that we have anything excessive over expenses, we're supposed to give it back to the entity.
You mentioned, once again, read the fine print.
Yes.
For reserve,
So this is reserve, that would be the answer.
Well, yes, exactly, because, as you have correctly, found out, there may be an issue with the landfill in Smith County as far as capacity is concerned. So what does that mean for us? That means, logistically, if we have to go either to Middle Point, which also has problems, or Bi-County, which is in Clarksville, guess what happens? Our transportation fees go through the roof. We don't know, there may be cost overruns with, the construction of the new facility. You always have to.
So we move it out of surplus cash into a reserve cash account, and we still invest it, but we identify it as a reserve?
can call it what you want.
Yeah,
But that's what we're gonna do, if it's reserved.
yeah, I mean, it's, I don't think the bank,
I mean, I'm just trying to
It's still
call it.
reserved, yeah.
And also, to your point, it doesn't say it goes back to the counties unless there is an agreement between the board and the entities, not just the county.
I'm
Remember,
familiar with that.
well,
City and,
I was just asking if we could mark it as reserved.
well, it does, I don't think it matters whether you mark it as a reserve or not. It is what it is. But doing a fiduciary duty, actually, I think requires us to put that and invest those funds if they run interest. By the way, got a call from one of the other financial institutions that say they pay 4.75, so we might want to take a look at, highest and best there. It's not a bidding project necessary, but this is a situation where back when this started, there was never surplus cash, or we were always running a deficit. Now it's not that situation, but we're also facing an expansion of at least $14 million. We don't have our own landfill, okay?
Which I'll add to it,
Yeah.
that budget's a couple years old.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the bond issue, what the bond issue is, unless, so we have to have money in reserve for these increased costs. And for contingencies, if the landfill in Smith County happens to close.
You have to open up a railroad track.
Exactly.
Well, and there's all kinds of, as we've talked about for several months, there's all kinds of uncertainties in the Middle Tennessee market, if you want to call it that, in solid waste right now. I mean, we don't know what we might, or, get into down the road. It might be way more entailed and expensive than going to a landfill, who knows where. It could be.
So, I don't want to get into a discussion, I just want to say the reserve needs to be short-term, it needs to be in reserve in case we got 6 months, we don't know what's happening. That's all I'm asking.
Well, this account is a money market account, you can draw it out any time you want.
yeah, we do like several withdrawals a month, so there wouldn't be an issue. You're not gonna tie the money up.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, and I'm happy to look at the second bank and do the same, right if I did.
First National.
Okay, so we're gonna look at that and look and see who's got the best rating, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other discussion on that? New business, discuss the change in the meeting location and date for the board meetings. Anybody have a discussion on that?
I recommend that we, I don't know how many years we met at the Resource Authority, and we met on the fourth Monday. I recommend we go back to that. People want to come, they can. We need to see what's going on. We have a meeting and we don't have any idea what's going on out there. Has anybody visited the Resource Authority in the last month?
I've been in there.
Today,
Open to visitors anytime.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
And
I put that in form of a motion.
is there a second?
I'll second that. And then I'll just, there's a point I want to make with discussion.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Being a new member, I would like to be able to, when we have the meetings, if we need to, especially when we get into these projects where we go out and take a look at what's going on and how the progress and what's going on with that. I feel that that's the justification in my mind to have those meetings at that location.
So are you saying that to have the meeting, because if we have things going on when we're at the meeting, we're gonna go out and tour what's going on, or are you saying they're gonna go ahead of time? Because you can go anytime. I think this is gonna really curb transparency with the people are interested now. We have a lot of our county, our cities, our Hendersonville, Gallatin, all of them are super interested in what's going on with the Resource Authority because of the fact that we all put a garbage can at the end of our road, our driveway, and about trash, we have trash on the sides of the roads and things like that, so I think it's gonna really be disingenuous to move it out there. I don't mind going out, I live in Gallatin, but I think it's better here, because, and if we need to look at something at the location, because something's coming up, then we can ride out there and look at it. They're very open, Larry, all these people out there have been so open about showing things to us, so I think that's kind of, I'm not voting for that.
And I think too, you know, I've been on here a long time too, and I know Larry's been on some years, but I think we met out there up until probably, how many years ago, we decided to move here?
Maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, you know, Larry was talking to us one time about convenience for like Hendersonville, and, you know, myself coming from Gallatin, you know, instead of having to go across town, that, you know, I can see where y'all are coming from, because I think when you are starting the new construction, it would be nice to be there to look at it, because, you know, you might not have time to go there during the week or something like that, but if you're there that day, you can go out there and look at it.
Well, and one thing,
and also, you know, anybody can come to those meetings, you still can come.
if we do, if the board, this body decides to move it to the resource authority, then I think it's all the more imperative that we, what I discussed earlier, is getting some information together where we can get that out into the community.
And two, another thing is, I think when he said the fourth Monday,
Yes.
right? Y'all will have a meeting on the fourth Monday, correct?
No, well, it's like this next month in September, Labor Day falls on the first Monday, so that's just typical. And it's gonna be.
But that's a rare occasion.
No, it's not. It's not a rare occasion. 4th of July, Labor Day, Columbus Day, what else? There's 4 or 5 months out of the year that it pushes back, and that's gonna be impossible. I mean, it's 6:15 now, and we're still meeting, and we still have another item to discuss. There's no way we can be here by 7 o'clock, and we cannot miss a commission.
But how did they do it for 20-something years or 30 years?
Exactly.
Well, you bring up another problem we're about to run into, is this room has a reservation board at 6:30.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us are on that committee, but we're under a deadline right now.
Yeah.
Because we're in this room.
So, I don't wanna have a big discussion, but the new open meeting laws say that you have to have accommodations for the public. If you could get back to us on that.
Well,
I went to a class, the lawyers told me.
well,
If you could
your,
just get back to
your
us.
county director tells you a lot of things
No,
that I listen.
MCAS, but I know you like MCAS. Can you check it?
And we don't need any comment from the public back there.
No,
please.
you actually do. I think you do, because you all are out of line.
No, y'all think you're out of line now.
So really,
I think you're very much out of line.
so really,
Okay.
really the transparency is,
I know you don't care.
I think, so I've been out to the meetings, and when we were at the meetings, I watched, it was nice, because it was during the day, I could watch people, all their trash trucks, the thing, and see all the trash in the trucks. The problem is that I have been there, like they said, there is not enough room for the public that wants to come. And so, are we gonna, how are we gonna be, we're supposed to serve the citizens, not the citizens. You know what I'm saying? I think that moving it out there, I don't see any problem with maybe once in a while having a meeting out there if there's something really pressing going on. But to move it out there permanently, that's just disingenuous to, I think, to the public that wanna come. We don't have the room out there.
Rick, you haven't been there, there's room for 3 citizens.
I've met with Larry,
Yes,
first
you
came
know.
on board, yeah, I know it's a small one.
And we still, Larry, there's still not that other, you remember the other big boardroom we met in?
No,
That's gone.
well, it's when we moved all of our stuff out of the waste energy plant, when we were demoing it, we put a lot of that stuff up there. We've got some other issues up there that makes that not a very good, suitable place to meet anyway.
Yeah.
Now,
Now, let me ask you, as county commissioner, do y'all meet every Monday?
We meet, I personally meet on, we have our EMS meeting on the first.
The committee meeting's the first Tuesday, or whatever, however it falls, if there's no holiday. The first, whatever the first Monday is, when there's not a holiday. For the first 2 weeks, and then the third week is commission meeting.
Well, it's
And then
second,
sometimes it's the fourth,
second Monday?
third.
Okay, is there anything on the second
Yes,
Monday?
committee meeting.
So y'all meet every Monday, basically. All right, we've got a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? Anything else? And the motion was to move it and do it on the fourth Monday. Fourth Monday. Correct? And when will we start this? Next month. Do we have enough time, or do we have to advertise that
We'll
to
have
change it?
plenty of time.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
No, it's not transparent and suggests the open meeting.
It's a vote, there's not time for discussion at this point. It's not against the open meetings law.
I will get you a letter. from
Okay,
council.
if you want, again, if, that's what courts of law are for, ma'am.
I know,
All right?
and the citizens hear you too.
Okay. All right, motion carries 4-3. All right. Discuss the landfill status report that was shared by email. Larry, you were back.
Yeah, I know, Terry shared this by email, end of the week, last week, about some information she'd gotten from, TDEC, somebody at TDEC to talk to. I've had this available, I got this letter from Mayor Mason up there, on Friday afternoon. I was out of town Friday, or I would have emailed that out ahead of time. But I met with, we talked about, I think it's been a few months back now, talking to them about the life expectancy and getting a letter from them. Never had gotten one, so I'd called Mayor Mason up there, it's been 3 weeks or so ago. And he and I and the landfill superintendent up there, met on the 8th of August. I went up and met with them at the landfill and, talked about, questions everybody's got right now about, their capacity and commitment to, taking care of our trash by the contract we've got. And he promised me then, I asked him about that letter again, he promised me to get it out, so he finally did, but, this kind of answers, or maybe gives a little more light on some of those issues that the person from TDEC had shared with you on that particular landfill up there. They do have, some issues that they're trying to address. The letter's in here, you can read it for yourself, but, they're in the process of getting a small expansion and trying to get another larger expansion, permitted as well. Well, 2 more actually. One that'll be a fairly large one. But they felt confident at that time, and I think he kind of goes, reiterates that in this letter, that they'll be able to take care of us for the length of the contract that we've got with them currently. The current contract's a 10-year contract. We started it in August of 2020. So we're 3 years into it right now. And the way that contract's put together, there's a end of 5-year look back, and
negotiate or talk about, you know, the rate at that point. And, in talking to him the other day when I had that meeting with him, he didn't mention it in this letter, but they feel pretty confident that at the end of that 5 years, there's probably going to be a rate increase. What that might be, they don't know, and he didn't say what it would be, but they felt pretty sure that there'd be some sort of rate increase. We're currently paying them $27 a ton to dispose up there right now, which is a really good rate.
Now, you said 20, was it 21 or 20?
The year that we signed it.
20. Did I say 21?
Well, the letter says 21, so.
Well, it was in 2020, because our contract with Waste Management ran out in August of 2020, and we rebid that. We negotiated that contract with Smith County directly and rebid the loading and the hauling.
So it'll come up in 25.
Yeah, 25. Okay. So we got 2 more years. And before we get to that point of having that discussion as far as by contract, discussing a potential rate increase. But according to what they told me in this letter as well, they feel confident they're going to be able to take care of us for the length of that contract. Now, anything can happen, I know that. You know, they're dealing with a regulatory entity just like a lot of other people are, as far as, you know, expansion permits and have to get approvals and all the rest of the stuff. So, you know, there could be issues involved in that, but that's kind of where we're at right now. I know it.
Does that contract have an option for us to extend it, or do we have to go back up for bids every 10 years?
I don't know. I think there's a possibility extended 1 term, I believe. I'd have to look at it again and see, but I think it's. But we can also, there's also provision in there to cancel it at any time too, with enough notice. I think it's 6 months notice or something like that.
When is the next task force meeting for Middle Tennessee?
I don't know if there's gonna be another one, just to be honest with you. I reached out to Michael Kipper with GNRC last month, because I hadn't heard anything about it from anybody. He sent me an email back, said, yeah, he said, I owe you and the other members of that task force committee, whatever you want to call it, an update. He said they were working on some exciting things, but that was a month ago, so I still haven't heard anything. So I don't know whether that's kind of went by the wayside or what. I'm not sure.
It hasn't. So he talked about that committee a couple weeks ago. It still exists, but I'm like you, I'm sort of disappointed they haven't met again.
Yeah. We were at least, I thought we were going to meet at least every other month, but it's been at least probably 3 months since we've had a meeting, since they've convened that strike force, task force. And they had several high-level people on there. There were some county mayors. TDEC commissioner was at those meetings we had. So I don't know what happened. I haven't got an explanation other than we haven't met and don't know if we're going to or not. So.
Well, I think the whole council wants y'all to keep meeting. I don't think Michael Skipper has a choice. Y'all are going to keep meeting.
Yeah. I'm available till I'm not.
Anybody got anything else?
I have one quick question.
Yes.
For, so you're saying, when you give your opinion, you're inviting members of this board and the community to see you in the court of law if they don't agree? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
That's what it sounded like.
that's exactly what I'm saying.
assuming that was under other business, correct?
Wherever you want to put it.
Nothing to do with landfill, it's just other business. All right, does anybody have anything else, other business? If not, do I hear a motion? Have a motion by Mr. Dunn.
Second.
Second, all right, all those in favor? Sure, we're adjourned.
My name's Tiffany, I'm